at photos of the Rwanda massacre, body parts slain all over, bodies on top of each other, pieces, children running and hiding, one group of people running away from another group of people, lined up along the banks. It was horrific to see these photos. And in trying to help you understand what Cindy went through and how brave she was, I asked Cindy to help us understand what it was like. And Cindy, you so authentically let me know, this is too horrible to revisit. You have a life you're living now, and that's just too horrible to revisit. That's how awful it was. And yet you were there with a heart, a brave heart, saying, I need to do something. And every day you did something.
Well, one thing I'll say, that I was not in the middle in Rwanda in the genocide, watching people be mutilated. I was seeing the remnants of those people come back that had gotten away, that were getting back into Kenya,
where they'd share their stories.
Where I was safe to a certain degree.
Oh.
I wasn't in the middle of the massacre myself. Okay. I couldn't have gotten in that country. I would have stuck out like a sore thumb, and that would have been the end of me. And I was not in the middle of that. But what I was emotionally involved in were people coming back to me, to my apartment, with their stories, and that their children had died, and that things were going on, and could we help them, and what could we do for them? Being part of that on that end of it. And then not very long after that, Charlie was more in the middle of it in Rwanda and kept coming back and forth, and he was actually picked up in Kigali, and he was put into a political prison. And I didn't know that I could ever get him out, being that I couldn't go back there, and I didn't think I had any contacts. Well, Robert, who was a friend of Charlie's and mine, who was a PhD psychiatrist working with the Norwegian church, who we were also working with getting people out. I knew that Charlie had been picked up. I didn't know how I was going to get him out. Robert called me, Charlie had been working for, and Robert said, there is a man named Nick that wants to meet you. He is from what is now called the Congo again. At that time it was Zaire. And he is a very important man. I suggest you meet him. He runs the country when the president is gone. And I said, oh, you mean the vice president of the Congo, or of Rwanda, of
Zaire? No?
Zaire, thank you, wants to meet. And so I said, send him to the New Stanley Hotel, to the coffee shop. I'll meet him in the coffee shop, see what he wants. So what had happened, I had been taking a lot of people to the Nairobi clinic for treatment of AIDS and to get AIDS medication. And the only thing they had on the market then was something similar to AZT, and it was making people violently ill. So I'd take them for this free medicine and said, if you don't like it, if you don't want to bring it back to me, and I'll take it back to the clinic. Everybody got sick. Nobody wanted it. They all brought the medicine back to me, and I stored it at our condo outside of town in Magoya in our closet there. So this man named Nick meets me at the coffee shop and says, I understand you have a medicine called Cameron. And I said, yes. He said, well, it's a black market medicine, you know. And I said, yes. What had happened, Cameron was a medicine that was created by the Japanese and brought into Africa, because as most people did for a time, was using Africans as guinea pigs, and brought this medication in to try on Africans to see if it worked or not. And the government got in a big dispute with Japan about it, the Kenya government, and they pulled it from the market. So now it's a black market drug and everybody wants it. What ended up, I probably had about $30,000 worth of Cameron in my closet out in Kigali, or out in Magoya. And this man, Nick, who had talked to Robert, knew that I had it. And Nick wanted to know, he said, people in high places in my government need this medicine. can I buy it from you? And I said, no, you can have it. And I said, if it can help anybody, and I don't know that it can, people are getting very sick from it, you can have it. And then I had an afterthought, and I said, you know, Charlie, my husband, is locked up in political prison in Kigali, and since your President Mobutu is in good favor with President Habyarimana in Rwanda, I said, maybe you could help me to get my husband out of prison. And he said, I don't know, we'll see. But, you know, I said, you get together with Robert, he will give you the medicine and you owe me no money. So it was a few weeks later, Robert called me and said, I'm going to go pick up Charlie. He's being delivered to Tanzania. They're getting him out, he's still alive, and because everybody was being slaughtered in prison and tortured and everything. They're getting him out, and he brought Charlie back, and Charlie was very sick. I had a doctor lined up in the hospital. And he'd always had malaria, but on top of that he had TB and raging staph infection and dysentery and several other things. But anyway, I had him about 6 weeks, and he died in my arms. And that was a really difficult thing to deal with. It was very, very hard after I lost Charlie and finally found the steps in the process to get him buried, when all he wanted to do was go home to Rwanda to be buried, and I couldn't do that. He had to be buried in Nairobi. But going through those steps and dealing with all the red tape and the people and the relatives and everything to do that and get on an airplane and get out of there. By the time I got home again, I was coughing up blood, and I had contracted Charlie's TB, staph infection in my lungs, and another African disease that I can't pronounce that was eating my lungs. So I was in the hospital for a long time in Newport, and then I was treated for a year after that for the TB. And then the war was over with the Gulf War with our country, so people were starting to travel again. So I went back and tried to do more safaris, because if I could keep the safari business going, then I could help getting people out of the country from Rwanda. So I went back for the last time and did one wonderful safari. And then I just was too sick and realized if I got malaria on top of it, that would be the end of me. I couldn't do anymore. So I had to just let things go after that. And the fact that I had contracted the AIDS virus, you know, I just couldn't hang on anymore. So I had to let it go.
How did you say goodbye to Africa?
It was really, really hard. Kinyanjui took me back out to Samburu, where it all started, and I was really not well, and we just sat out there in the village for a while, and they had given me a bracelet with my name on it and brought a white goat to me that they had given me years before as a gift. And I told them, no, you keep it and raise it. I can't take it with me on safari. So they brought me my white goat every time I went out there. And I was just telling them goodbye and knew that I wasn't coming back. And, you know, just kind of celebrated with them out there and then just left. But Kinyanjui was my last person out there, and everybody knew. They were very sad for me because they all knew Charlie had died. And it was actually after that I started getting a lot of letters in the States of marriage proposals from different herdsmen and things that, you know, we hear your husband is gone, we're very sorry. Now come home and come back to us and bring us those cows. You know?
Come home.
Yeah, come home.
Come home.
Yeah.
Thank you.